Welcome to this edition of Hindsight is Horrifying, the show where three mostly normal and somewhat cynical adults discuss life as members of the TV generation. Now here are your hosts, Darth Jada, Jason Mitchell, and Adam B.
Hello, hello, hello.
Good evening, Hindsighters, and welcome back to yet another episode where host shall make host cry.
Yes. Good morning, Hindsighters, depending on where you are and when you are listening to this.
Where and when you are, Hindsighters, you Dr. Who fans out there.
Gang.
Hello, Hindsighters and all the ships at sea.
What does Truman's show say? Good evening and good night.
So we are continuing with this very, very ill-informed decision we made a while ago.
No, we? What is this we nonsense?
Well, I suggested
Talking
it.
about the overarching decision by all of us.
Yes, I suggested it. You guys went along with it. That's the difference.
Was that the decision, or are you thinking about the decision to choose this movie?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
See, look at that. Miscommunication across the board.
What
We're like
we
a married
have
couple.
here is a failure to communicate.
Yes.
Well, we set out, or I set out a challenge to my co-hosts to find movies that we could watch and make the other hosts watch them and weep.
Yes.
Tears.
Cry.
Tears were the objective. So we've had horrible Stallone action movie with Cobra. We had a gory horror movie, but Mr. Brown decided to cheat and went straight for the cockles of our hearts.
I tried. I did not know
Deep
you
in
did
the
not.
Cockles.
You didn't have cockles.
Maybe
You had them
even in
removed.
the sub cockles.
Yes. Didn't you know, Mr. Brown? We're dead inside. So.
Yes, just like the horror films that we watch. Dead inside. Well,
Go
if
ahead,
it's any
tell us what we're watching.
If it's any consolation, I wept from beginning to end. This is a movie called Brian's Song, and not the cheap remake in 2001 made for TV film.
I didn't know.
Oh, shots fired.
I didn't know they made a remake.
I didn't know either, honestly.
So I originally thought, as I discovered the 2001, we could watch them both and do a comparison, but the ratings of the one in 2001 were so poor, one. And number two, it's not rentable. So we had to stick with the 1971 version with Billy Dee Williams.
Billy
and
Dee.
James Caan. A year before he did another blockbuster film called
The Godfather?
The Godfather.
Yes.
You take
He
the
was Sonny
gun, you leave the
Corleone.
cannoli.
Okay, first piece of movie trivia about Brian's Song, and I think this is one of those cool Hollywood stories. Billy Dee was not the first choice to play Gale Sayers.
Oh.
Okay, do either of you know who was originally cast? And
Samuel L. Jackson.
Yes.
He was 8.
Yes, the fetus of Samuel L. Jackson. Yeah,
God.
It was Louis Gossett Jr.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I could see
When
that.
he had hair.
And what happened was, and this was before Louis Gossett Jr. was a big star. Like
So this was pre-Jaws 3D.
before he could,
Sorry,
before
it was
he could
such a cheap
command,
shot.
yeah, those big Jaws 3D dollars.
Yeah.
Louis Gossett Jr. Like shortly before they were supposed to begin filming, he injured himself.
Doing what?
I don't
Playing
God only knows.
football.
probably playing. Honestly,
playing
probably
He's
playing
method
football,
enough.
yeah.
I would believe that, actually. Yeah.
But Louis Gossett Jr. Injured himself, and they said, "Well, look, you can't do the movie. We got a schedule. We got to get somebody else in here." And he was heartbroken. Oh. And the writer said, "Look, Lou, I'm going to put you in the next thing that I make. I'm going to give you a big part in the next thing that I make to make it up for you."
Jaws 3D.
No, I can't wait to hear what this
I'm
was.
kidding.
Well, do either of you know the movie that made Louis Gossett Jr.'s career? Also a TV movie, actually a TV miniseries.
Rich Man, Poor Man?
No.
Louis Gossett Jr. was in Rich
No,
Man, Poor Man.
I'm just throwing
I was
out
about to say, that
miniseries.
doesn't sound right.
It was one of the most highest rated TV.
Thornbirds.
No. Roots.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're right.
He was Fiddler in Roots.
There were many, many roles for
Yeah.
him in that one.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Wow. Nothing.
that-
Nothing at all. Don't worry about it. And he's from the North, Hindsighters. That's
I
what's
know.
really worrisome.
All I was saying, it was a largely African American cast.
That is true, but that was the movie that made him a star.
Yeah.
Which, not to say it, but Billy Dee's career kind of sputtered after Empire or after Return of the Jedi.
And he didn't even have that big of a role in Return of the Jedi. He was bigger in Empire,
he was
for
a lot
sure.
bigger. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was the bad guy in Empire, unfortunately. He turns Han over to the Empire.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert for those of you who haven't seen Star Wars. Oh my God.
They're out there.
I know.
They are out there.
I know.
I'm kind of jealous of them.
I know.
Just of the new stuff.
We wish we were one of them.
Yeah.
Move on.
But yeah, so anyway, so Louis Gossett Jr., the original person who was going to play Gale Sayers, Billy Dee was brought in after Louis Gossett Jr. was hurt. And here we have this performance that I think, and I'm going to tread lightly here because I know you're a fan of Jimmy Caan, and I am too. I'm going to say that Billy
He's
Dee
talking
Williams.
to you, Mr. Brown.
I'm going to say that Billy Dee Williams does a better job than Jimmy Caan. I think Billy Dee Williams is
absolutely.
Jimmy Caan does an amazing job too, but Billy Dee's he's so believable.
Jimmy Caan strikes me as almost the Matthew McConaughey of this movie. And I don't mean that as an insult. He's just got that.
How can it not be an insult?
No, Matthew McConaughey is a brilliant actor, turns out. I mean, I know he cut his teeth on a bunch of rom-coms, but he's in
one of my all-time favorite movies.
He's an incredible, which is
Interstellar.
Uh-huh.
I love Interstellar.
So, well, not all the hindsighters know that, so you have to share that information. But Matthew McConaughey is incredible, and so is Jimmy Caan. But Jimmy Caan just has that Matthew McConaughey country boy kind of feel in this movie, like
which is weird because Piccolo was from like Boston.
Yeah, but he has a country accent throughout the movie.
But he went to college at Wake Forest, North Carolina.
Yeah,
and I think
he picked up that country accent.
I think he was trying to, But the interesting thing is they were 22 years old when they graduated from college. They were 31 and 32 respectively when they played these roles.
Well, good for them. I mean, Luke Perry played a teenager until he died, honestly. So he was in his 50s when he died.
So true.
In Hollywood, you never, just like in Mean Girls. I mean, you had, Amy Poehler, who was only 7 years older than the girl who was playing her daughter. So Hollywood, it's all age difference happens in Hollywood, Mr. Brown. Are you not familiar with this concept?
The shorter you are, the younger you can be.
Oh, apparently so.
Well, why don't we give the audience a synopsis?
I have it pulled up.
Yes.
I sure can. So, hindsighters, for those of you like me who may not have seen this movie until recently or haven't seen it at all.
What year did it come out?
This movie came out in 71.
71.
Release date November 30th, 1971. So, the synopsis is as such: Brian Piccolo, James Caan, Jimmy Caan, as it were, and Gale Sayers, Billy Dee Williams, a.k.a. Lando Calrissian, our teammates.
Black magic.
Oh my gosh,
our
yes.
teammates in the mid-1960s Chicago Bears. At a time when professional football still bears a certain amount of race-based segregation, the growing friendship between the white Piccolo and the black Sayers, as well as their wives, Joy and Linda, become a symbol of harmony during the Civil Rights era. That bond grows stronger still when Piccolo receives some shattering and unexpected news.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when you watch this movie, if you've ever heard of it, people will say it's a movie about a guy who has cancer and dies.
It is.
And it's really not.
No, there's a lot more to
There's
this.
a lot more to that. Yeah.
Well, and I expected there to be even more. Almost Remember the Titans-esque. So, but before we miss this point, Jason, you and I were talking about this off camera. You actually asked me why this movie is called Brian's Song.
No, seriously. No, I'm totally honest.
No, I'm not even making fun of you because it's kind of a weak title, honestly, when you really get down to it.
It's based on a book by Gale Sayers called I Was Third.
I Was Third, yeah.
And so when they actually made the movie, they called it Brian's Song.
And why did they do that, Jason? Do you remember what I said?
Well, the assumption that we're making is that it's because he sings the Wake Forest fight song.
Yes.
But that's not like...
No,
It doesn't,
the movie.
It doesn't tie the story together. There's no, character development involved with it.
No.
It's simply when Piccolo and Sayers first meet each other in camp when they're training to be on the Chicago Bears team or trying out for the Chicago Bears team, they keep pranking each other. And it starts with Piccolo. He starts messing with Sayers, who I have to say has almost a Bubba sort of quality with his Like,
well, he's shy.
He's shy, but the way he juts out his mouth and like he's sort of like Bubba in Forrest Gump, where he doesn't want to talk and like he's just. But the point is, they prank each other back and forth while they're in camp together. And one of the pranks results in Brian Piccolo singing the Wake Forest fight song.
Right, yeah.
And that's the only song that happens in the movie.
Which is fair because he just cost Gale Sayers $25 in 1967
Which
money,
is like $70,000.
Yeah,
My God.
Adjusted for inflation in today's dollars.
I think that's how much like a plane in Vietnam cost. It was about $25.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean that's a big deal.
Yes.
And Piccolo is a harmless enough
Buy a
guy.
house.
He, like I said, he's kind of got the Matthew McConaughey vibe with the whole country boy thing he's got going on. But he's like, oh man, I'm just kidding with you and whatnot. And one thing that comes up that's about to happen between him and Sayers is Piccolo tells Sayers, thank you. And Sayers doesn't answer him. And this is something that my dad drilled into me as a Southern child. He says, when somebody says thank you, doesn't matter how you feel about them at the time, you always say you're welcome.
I agree. My pet peeve,
That's how that goes.
because I have a lot of them, but I have like a farm
One
of
of
peeves.
one of the Rolodex
Yes.
in
We're
your
amazed.
Rolodex.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
amazed.
No,
Oh my
seriously,
God.
I've gotten to the age where if I say thank you and somebody says,
Oh, geez. Yeah, no, that's...
I said
That's-
thank you.
You slap them.
yeah, what did you say?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's when you beat them and you keep making them say, say it again, say it again.
Say it again.
No, but this is a movie about friendship.
Yes.
And it exemplifies, and I've said this before, I think I've said it on the show before, because I think by
Surely.
this point I've said everything on the show.
I mean,
Yeah,
what have we
yeah,
not
I
said
don't
on
know.
this damn show?
Yes.
Oh my God.
One of my favorite types of movies or TV series is one where there's no bad guy. There's absolutely no
There's
villain.
nothing to defeat exactly.
It's a movie about people being nice to each other, and if as a writer you can pull that off, it's gold.
But there is a villain.
But only in the end.
It's a thing.
Yeah, but
Yes.
at
but
the
not
end,
something
though.
you can necessarily defeat and not something that they can
Right.
face off together. It's
Nobody's
not,
trying to screw. In fact, even the scene where they get hazed.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
It's harmless.
it's harmless.
They've got like oatmeal or something.
Yeah.
They're chasing
Yeah.
with some
I
wooden
was going to
spoons.
ask. Okay, so the guys are trying out for the Chicago Bears, and this
Which,
is where
by the way, for those of you who don't know, the Chicago Bears used to be a football team.
they used to be.
yeah.
Yes.
Sorry,
A great football team.
Yeah,
Bears.
a long time ago.
in
Many,
the
many
galaxy
years
far,
ago.
far away. Hence the Star
Although-
Wars connection.
Gale Sayers never played in a single postseason game, though,
Well, there you go.
because he was playing for the Chicago Bears.
Oh my God! But
Hey, I'm from Louisiana.
Yes.
I can talk.
I was actually
You're
going to
such a
ask.
saint.
I was going to ask about that. So the boys get
I had to do that.
the boys get hazed when they first join the team, and you think at first that there's going to be more contention because their coaches warn them that they're going to be the first white and black man, rooming together.
Yeah, that was a big deal in
the
the 60s.
history of the NFL.
Huge.
And
Yeah.
so you think it's going to be more Remember the Titans. There's going to be more contention and cross burning and awful picket lines,
Yeah.
but that doesn't really happen.
Yeah, there was no scene of Gale, outside going cowards.
Yeah,
know.
and there's no when you see that they're getting hazed when they come out of their dorm together, and you see that the guys are chasing after them with like baked beans or
Yes.
something. But it's just because they're the newbies. It's not
exactly.
because they're black and white.
Exactly.
Their teammates
But
never
you
gave
thought
an F about
though.
that.
But you thought that when
Yeah,
they
first.
first come up, you go, "Oh, here comes they're going to be racist," and then you realize two things: one, they're not, and also the Chicago Bears actually provided people to be in this movie, and they weren't going to let anyone.
No,
betray them,
and
yeah.
I wonder if that was part of the contract. We'd have to look that up, I guess.
I think
where
it's
it's
just
like
sort of common sense. If you're going to have, Dick Butkus and
guys who can whip your
Butkus
ass.
were
just-
all there.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
the big ones
Yeah.
were playing for the Bears at that time. And George Halas, come on. That's the George Halas.
don't you miss football? Don't you miss the NFL? Because here's the
the
thing.
real NFL is what they're
Yeah.
talking
well,
about, hindsighters.
here's the thing. There he is, the Big Lebowski.
Yeah.
there he is.
Oh,
Tell
I
us.
know.
You have to
Yeah,
explain,
yes.
Jason, if you're going to call it out on the screen.
The Big Lebowski, who also played in
Blazing Saddles.
Blazing Saddles. That's what
we
I was
don't need no stinking football players.
Gabby says the new sheriff's near,
Howard Johnson is right. Different
Yes.
movie, folks.
Yes.
But the Big Lebowski is in this movie, and he plays a lovable. That's the thing.
And you recognize that guy?
Oh yeah, he was in like
love him.
He passed away too.
Tell us who it is, guys. Come on.
It is Bernie Casey.
There you go.
He's been in like 80 films, and one of my favorites, Revenge of the Nerds. I don't know why I find that movie so wonderful.
He doesn't have his nerd goggles on tonight.
2 episodes of Babylon 5. He was a
Oh my God,
a
they're in a
commanding
nerd off.
officer of a ship. You know, so
UN Jefferson from Revenge of the Nerds.
Well, and that see,
everybody
that's where I thought
clap your hands.
this is where I thought there would be more payoff because they build up this scene with Billy Dee Williams, aka Sayers, where they're like, hey, they call him in and he thinks he's being cut from the team or
Right,
something dramatic or life changing, and they're like, we want you to room with a white boy.
We're trading you to Cloud City.
And Han Solo, because he always called him Han. Han's gonna be your roommate.
You're gonna be living with this fella named Han Solo. So whatever.
I do love this about Piccolo is that he also takes it in stride. Like it never bothers him.
Well,
he doesn't see color. I love that about him.
When he was at Wake Forest, and I don't remember the whole story, but I know there was an incident at Wake Forest where he specifically took a black student. I guess he was a ball player also, and walked up to the front row of the students where they could sit, and people kind of looked, you know, and apparently Piccolo put his arm around the guy.
Aww.
Like, he's my friend. He's going to stand here right next to me.
And there's kind of a shout out to that in the movie because he's putting his arms around the other African American players. But and this is, gentlemen, I have to segue a little bit because of what you just said, Jason. I'm so proud of my dad because he was born in '54. And he was
well
called.
Done.
Yes,
well,
good for him.
I know, and he's still around. But the reason why I'm proud of him is because
Wrong
he was.
tone?
He was in a very. He grew up in a very small town, and he was called to his class reunion. It was such a small class.
Was he born a poor black boy?
Yes. That's why you'll see where the story is going. But anyway, he was called to his class reunion, and it was such a small school that there was going to be only like a handful of people at the party. And he was told, Morgan, keep it kind of hush hush. We're only inviting certain people. And my dad soon found out that was a very racist thing. And he was like, oh, you mean like so-and-so's not invited, so-and-so's not invited? And they were like, yeah, basically. He goes, well, then you won't see me there because I'm not coming to a party where everybody's not invited.
Good for him.
And I was like, that's my dad. Yes.
See, that's when the tears
I know
start
he's your
to well
dad.
up.
Don't bury
I'm
the
sorry.
needle.
Yeah.
No, I had to bury the needle. That's
at
Morgan Rogers. He's a badass.
Football used to be about.
Oh, right, football.
Football used to be about, well, all sport, baseball, basketball, football, any sport. It was all about unifying people. And
that used to be the message.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, this is Piccolo, not to get into politics, but Piccolo and Sayers did more for race relations than Kaepernick has ever done.
Well, yeah, because living it makes all the difference.
Find me a person under the age of 40 who has ever heard the name Gale Sayers or Brian Piccolo. You're going to have a hard time.
Yeah, that's true because
right.
honestly, I wasn't terribly familiar with them myself. Like I had heard several of the names in this movie. It's just that they were all kind of piecemeal. I've never seen Brian's song, so it wasn't all cohesive for me. So I totally agree with you on that, Jason.
James Caan looks like he's 40 though.
He's
not a 22-year-old
He was
man.
born a 40-year-old man, kind of like how I was born a surly 45-year-old myself.
And I don't understand why he's being interviewed by a Vulcan.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the haircut.
Tapong from the
70s,
Vulcan
from what
News
I understand.
Agency.
Oh, and Billy D. So hindsighters,
Billy D.
Billy D. But Billy D. Williams.
Look at that. That's
I mean,
what
the running
football
is
used to.
extraordinary.
Oh, he was
is
incredible.
amazing.
It was incredible. A rookie of the year.
They're talking about the raw footage of the old Chicago Bears.
As a part of this film,
hindsighters.
they do incorporate the real footage,
Just like Forrest Gump.
Which it's such an amazing thing, and if you
Bad joke.
you think about differences in filming or creating a movie back then versus today. Back then, your footage from the NFL was so grainy and bad that with
That's
the helmet
true.
on, it could have been anybody.
anyone, right?
Yeah.
And so you can cut back and forth between Gossett Jr. Between Billy Dee Williams,
Right.
With the helmet on.
and yeah.
I can't. I definitely
I was about
can't.
to say,
put
I
this on
don't
my
think that's
face.
going to work.
No,
I'm just gonna
won't
wear it like a crown.
fit your noggin. That is my old football helmet from Little League football, and I wanted to be a professional football player.
How'd that
Of
go?
course,
Well, as you can see, not so good.
he's in this studio with us
Are you starting
now,
to have
so-
second thoughts?
Yes, just like every other, every other strange pursuit. It just brings me right back to engineering and healthcare IT. Very exciting.
What position did you play in football, Mr. Brown?
I was an end. Not a tight
tight
end.
end?
Not a tight end.
Damn it!
Don't go there.
Upper bottoms.
Yes.
Stern yet sensual skipper of the USS Rough Service.
Well, what I loved, just a little backstory. I remember seeing this movie when it was on TV long before both of you were born, and it made me weep.
Oh, yeah.
It made me weep. And
It
in
made
fact,
America weep.
and it was broadcast like in the old days every year, like The Wizard of Oz. Oh,
But
Brian
what time of year though? Like when would they
It
play
was
this?
fall. It was usually during Thanksgiving
During
time frame.
football season?
They would
It
have
was
played it.
football
They would have
season,
tied it in to the beginning of football season,
Oh,
probably.
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I just remember crying at the very end, but I did not remember the racial component as a child.
well-
but when I rewatched it, I was like, okay, wow, that's big stuff.
Yeah, the segregation and the racism are pretty heavy in this movie.
Well, it's not so much that that's heavy. What I like about it is that it's, again,
Not
it's
not
a movie
between-
about people. Everyone in the movie is just trying to do the right thing.
They are, but
You know?
I'm primarily saying, especially not between the best friends, because one thing that I can relate to is between truly best friends, nothing's off limits.
Oh, no.
So, for instance, Mr. Brown thought that this movie was going to make Darth Vader cry, hindsighters, and I'll tell you why it didn't. Because it is a movie, spoiler alert, about a man dying of cancer, ultimately. And my very best friend in the universe had cancer, and she kicked it in the face. So, shout out to Meg. You're the strongest, most badass bitch that's ever happened in the history of the ever. And she loves it when I exploit her cancer to, cheer for her. So that's exactly what I'm doing. You can't make me cry with cancer, Mr. Brown, because Meg's stronger than cancer.
I will posit one of the reasons why you didn't cry.
Tell me why I didn't cry,
I'm
Jason.
positing. This is my theory. I think for a guy,
Postulation.
as guys, we don't have too many like close friends. You know, like that we just like a brother.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
you watch a movie like this, and I don't think you can help but think about whoever your best friend is, and what you would be gutted.
But it already happened to me. Like, and here's the
No,
story.
no. I'm talking about. Well, wait, not Meg. You're talking about.
No, Meg, like my
but
very.
But she lived. Meg is still with us.
Yes, I know, but the thing is, when we didn't know that was a certainty,
Yeah.
I was at my job, and I was one of the few people that she told me when she was even being tested in the first place, because she found a lump, and that was horrible. And I was at work when she texted me and just goes, "It's cancer." I stared at the corner of the wall that I faced for about an hour and didn't move. I was like a lizard. I couldn't emote. I couldn't do
So
anything.
now the tears are going to come.
No,
But
they're not.
You didn't cry then either, did you? You kept
No,
it
I
together.
didn't, because I was.
She is stone cold.
She
I'm
is
heartless.
Steve Austin.
I'm dead inside. Hindsighters. But
like
yeah,
a
it
name
just.
of a-
Death
next
is
horror.
part of life. Stop weeping.
I forget
You
to make
are-
waffle.
Get over it. We will all die.
No, but
One
she.
day.
Well, which is totally true. You know, I mean, and I think that's one of the things about watching a movie like this when you're young. And I saw it on, I think, ABC with my dad. My dad, I'm not crying. You're crying. Shut up. Go do your homework.
But,
you know.
but tell us, like, so what's the difference between men and women in that case? Because I seriously, because I'll
This
never have
movie-
another Meg. I won't.
Well, this movie is a very much guy friend movie.
Well,
and
it's guy love.
And there's not a lot of movies that really explore that real emotional part where it's, you meet somebody and it's like a brother, and I'm going to do everything to keep you, alive. I'm going to take care of you, and you're going to do the same for me. And most movies, guys don't come off like that.
They're too macho to even need friends or whatever.
Yeah.
I like that
and
part,
they fuck with each other.
Yo.
Big time.
And that's the thing. Like, like one of the lessons I've tried to drive into my son's skull, and I think I've finally done it, is when you're around kids and they rip on you, if they're your friends and they're ripping on you, that's fine. That's good.
Oh yeah.
That's what you want.
We, my best friends in life were like, we wouldn't fuck with you if we didn't like you. That's what it comes down to. And
Right.
Meg and I are kind of the same way. We always prided ourselves on that. We've got more of a quote unquote dude relationship because, you know, we rip on each other all the time. She's like, hey, Jade, smell this for me. And I'm like,
Oh, wait, what is she
thanks,
asking you
that's
to
great.
smell?
It doesn't matter. Like
I feel like it does.
It does to me.
Candles.
I'm starting to get interested here
Candles,
in your
food, like regular
relationship.
stuff. What the hell is wrong with guys? Okay, maybe we're not that much like Guy Skillet. Like, I don't know.
Guess where my finger's been? Sniff it.
Ew. Y'all are so Turk and JD. That's adorable.
So,
Anyway, moving on.
but the sad
guys
thing
mess with
is-
each other.
Yeah, but the sad thing is, speaking about the guys messing with each other, which and guys will do that for all sorts of reasons. One, we just love it. We love messing with our friends. But two, it's a way for us to motivate. And you know, I can, if I'm trying to do something nice for you, I can do it in a way where I'm sort of insulting you, and that way we don't have to deal with the emotion of it.
Oh yeah,
And-
because
and-
you don't want to like condescend to your friends.
No. Well, and the scene in this movie that I think most encapsulates that
The leg lift.
is the scene that they
The racist leg lift.
It's not racist. It's totally not.
Because even Billy Dee Williams is like, okay, so hindsighters.
No,
just
Billy
to give,
D. Well, okay, in the scene.
To give some context.
Yeah.
Which
So-
he's injuring himself right now in the
Yes,
field
yes.
as we
Yes.
speak.
So Sayers, the real person, Billy Dee Williams, he injures his knee very badly in play on the field, and what Piccolo tells him, they get real after a moment, but Piccolo actually shows up to Sayers' house uninvited.
By the
and-
way, did you recognize the house?
It was not Bewitched, was it?
Bewitched.
That's exactly what I thought when I saw that.
It's the Bewitched house.
Oh wait, I was doing I Dream of Jeannie.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yes.
I messed up. But
Yep.
yeah, so it is the Bewitched house.
Mrs.
I was waiting for Mrs. Kravitz to look in the window.
Durwood pulling up in his car. But so the point is that Piccolo shows up uninvited and actually builds a rehabilitation,
Yeah.
in
the basement.
Like a leg lift device.
Yeah, leg lift device.
In the low budget basement set.
Yeah. In Jason's shop where he builds his models.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Man cave.
Piccolo, yeah, his man cave. But Piccolo shows up and he's like, hey, you've got to, rehabilitate. You got to get better because I'm going to beat you next season. And it's all, buddy for a minute until they have to get real with each other because Sayers is about to give up on himself, but then Piccolo has to get real. And he says,
The doctor told Piccolo, people who are in this situation by themselves, they give up.
yes.
And
well,
so-
that's later.
yeah.
That's not Piccolo picks up on that, doesn't he?
I thought that was before. I thought that was. Oh,
No,
maybe,
because
okay, you're
it's
right.
when he's
Maybe
running
you're
in the
right.
park.
Yeah,
It's when he's running in the park later. So Piccolo knows this before the doctor does, and Piccolo sort of does it. He makes it. Is this a thing with guys? I have to ask you both because Piccolo makes it look like it's selfish because he goes, "I want to be the first position in what we do." Because
As men, we like to avoid the emotion.
I know, but
And that is how he got. No, men do that.
that's what I'm asking.
No, totally true. Totally legit. Like, I don't need your help. I'm not helping you, asshole. I'm
I
helping
want to be
me.
better than you.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to be
Right.
better than you, but I'm going to do it fair. So shut the fuck up and let's do this.
And that's exactly what Piccolo says.
Yeah.
Like he's like, I was the best at what he used to be a big fish in a small pond. Now
Big
he's a smaller fish in a much bigger pond. And Sayers is
But he was number 2 at Wake Forest. That's
Yeah.
and that's what he was saying.
but now Sayers is better than he is. So he's telling Sayers, I'm gonna be better than you and I've got to get you feeling better and back up to 100%. Otherwise I'm not the best.
Right.
So that
Wait, wasn't he number 2 in high school?
oh, that's what it
Yeah, I
was.
was about
Because
to say,
in
I
Wake
thought it was
Forest,
high school.
he set the
Back in his home
national
state.
record
Yeah.
in Russia.
You're
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
And and the thing is, what he recognized is he was a big fish in a small pond, and it's not as satisfying.
Right.
And Piccolo is a scrapper. He is
Yeah.
not a natural. Gale
He's a
Sayers
terrier
could
is what they
roll
say.
out of bed.
Well, he's a guinea.
Okay,
What is
that
a
too.
guinea?
You don't know what a guinea is?
A WAP.
I just
A
asked.
dago.
A dago.
Yes.
I'm married to one. I can say
You
these
can
things.
you can abuse white people. Now, that's funny that you don't know that. That was a standard term
I don't
in the
know that.
70s.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, really?
That's
eye
When I
tie.
didn't exist?
oh, that's right. I forgot.
Yeah.
You aren't 40.
Imagine.
You aren't 45, right?
Piccolo is an eye tie.
Only emotionally, darling.
He's an
Only
Italian.
emotionally.
Yes, he
He's
loves
an Italian.
pizza and pasta.
Yes.
Oh yeah, because that's another thing. The racial
Well,
component.
getting back to that scene that we're talking about, we were building up to the scene where Piccolo is trying to motivate
Sayers.
Sayers. And so he tries, and I won't say it obviously,
Right.
but he
says the
tries.
N-word.
He
Yes.
tries to use the
N-word.
N-word.
Yes.
And Sayers loses it with laughter because it's so ridiculous.
He even calls
He's-
his wife down. And he's like, "Piccolo just tried to call me the N word.
Yeah.
Oh my god!"
Yes,
And then-
they all laugh.
And Piccolo says, "What if I called you a wop?" And then Sayers is like, "Oh, they want. I would have been mad."
Without papers. So it's funny how between best friends
Have you ever
anything
seen
goes.
Jiu-Jitsu?
Oh wow.
Yes.
But especially when you know where the motivation is coming from, because Meg has done that to me. I've done that to her, where I'm like, all right, get your shit together. Come on, let's go.
Right.
Get off your ass and like move.
and
Like
that- and- yeah.
we've done that to each other.
Yeah.
Like you've just got to find different strategies for it, and
Yeah.
nothing's out of bounds when that comes to best friends.
Right.
You just forgive each other. You might be mad.
I'm thinking that what he recognized in high school, because he had someone just ahead of him, it motivated him to be the best that he could, because he was competitive, naturally competitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he went to Wake Forest, he just crushed everyone. And it's like, okay, I'm the
He leveled
I'm the
out.
greatest.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the greatest
Yeah.
tier. What kind of satisfaction is that? Now he's in the same situation he was in high school.
Surrounded by college girls, probably a lot. But, no, I know what you
Well,
mean.
it's kind
I
of
know
like
what you
King
Yes.
Louis syndrome. He reached the top tier that he was going to reach, and now he's looking for another challenge.
When Alexander surveyed the breadth of his domains, he wept for there were no more worlds to conquer.
Oh my God.
Bingo. That was Wake Forest
Yeah,
for
that
him.
was Wake Forest.
He's like a little Ruta Kanicki, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know what's happening.
You don't
right
know what a
now.
Ruta Kanicki is?
No.
She doesn't know what a Ruta Kanicki is? It's a Sean Astin.
A Frodo. No, not a Frodo.
You ever see the movie Rudy?
Well, yeah, Frodo.
No, I
yeah,
haven't
Frodo.
seen Rudy. I know
Oh
the
my
gist
gosh.
of it.
This poor girl.
Yeah,
We
Rudy,
need to educate this
Yeah.
He's
lady.
petting me to calm me down. I don't know what's
There-
happening
there
right now.
used to be sports movies when they would make sports movies. At the
Sports
end, at the
movies.
end of the movie, the entire audience, even though they knew how it was going to turn out, it was the Giants, not the Giants. Who won the pennant? Was it the Giants?
San Francisco Giants? They
Giants
did it
won
one
the pennant,
time.
Giants won the
They're
pennant.
having a guy off.
Yeah.
No, but sports movies used to be about at the end of the movie, everyone in the audience came together. And
Well, yeah.
everyone was rooting for this one. I mean, Major League, which is a ridiculous comedy. At the end of Major League, you're
That's the
rooting
one with Charlie Sheen, right?
for Charlie
See,
Sheen.
that one I'm
yeah.
seeing.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah,
But going back for just a second.
we do need to take a quick break. Let's just bounce out for 1 second, reset the clocks, and we'll be back.
No. And we're back, Hindsiders. Welcome. So we're actually in the midst of Sayers
scene.
rehabilitating himself alongside Piccolo, who took the time to build the machine, the leg lift machine that Sayers needs to get back to 100% so that Piccolo can beat him at 100%, because
First of all,
that's very important.
Can I just point out if the rookie of the year for the Chicago Bears injured his knee
Bears.
in 2021? Can you imagine the medical unit, the constellation
yes.
of doctors,
Yes.
Oh, God.
the millions of dollars that would be spent? This guy's just in a crappy set of a basement that doesn't even look like a real. It's got like a bookshelf with,
Especially-
I think,
With some fake
bottles.
books on it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And they wouldn't leave it up to a fellow player these
No,
days. That
no.
it would 100%. It wouldn't be a doctor just releasing Sayers from the hospital saying, "Hey, buddy, I know." It's like
Right.
it's like Mr. Fron, like that's his visitation buddy.
But-
Like, got to walk him through it.
Well, but also too, how much does Rookie of the Year pull down from the Chicago Bears compared to how much Gale Sayers was pulling down?
I honestly have no idea, but I'm sure it's a huge
big
chunk.
difference. The financial investment that the Chicago Bears had made in Sayers up to this point was minuscule.
If Jerry Maguire has taught me anything.
Yeah.
But
Well, there was a big transition in the 80s in sports.
But let me ask you, gentlemen, because I don't know much about the behind the scenes as far as football goes, but is there like a buddy system in sports professionally? Like,
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
I don't
like
think
They're all free agents.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're trying to. Everybody's out for themselves.
The whole idea that you would be like a thing about rooming together. I mean,
nobody rooms together anymore. They all have their own rooms, I would assume. Like their agents have, or their managers, or whatever you want to call them, have negotiated those terms for them, I suppose. But that was one thing that I noticed, is that they were basically staying in like a college dorm when they were even being recruited. But this is the point where, hindsighters, Adam and I were texting each other about this movie because Darth Vader has never seen it until last night, actually. And we were talking about foreshadowing. Do you remember our conversation about that, Adam?
Yes, I do.
Because you thought that the foreshadowing happened later, and in fact, it happens during this race scene where Jimmy Kahn is racing Billy Dee through the park.
And I love this scene. I'm sorry. I just love it.
Oh,
And
it's beautiful.
And the slow motion scene. And he falls, and then you got this hesitation. Did he damage his knee again?
Yep.
And he's like, boom, no, he gets up again and runs.
Pops right back up.
by the way, I just looked it up. The minimum salary
I'm about to be green
in
with
the
jealousy.
in the National Football League. Any guesses?
250,000. 80,000.
in the millions, right?
$610,000.
That's the minimum salary?
Wow.
Wow, things have changed a lot.
The minimum.
Yikes.
Jim Thorpe
and
made
that's if you-
$2 a game.
That's if you suck.
Yeah.
And he got all of his Olympic medals taken away.
Yeah.
For $2 a baseball game.
The
Yikes. The Native American guy, right?
in the 20s.
Yes.
In the
No,
20s.
I had to look it up after you texted me about it. So it was partly because he's Native American, or like what was the contention between like the medals that he won?
They
or-
can save money. No, I'm kidding.
Oh.
No.
I was like,
So
what?
there's
I don't know anything about this.
Just because this kind of rolls nicely into the discrimination against non-white people in sports. So Jim Thorpe in the 1912 Olympics in Stockholm, he was the world's greatest athlete ever in humanity.
Yeah.
There is,
Okay.
in fact, if you look at Jim Thorpe, he played baseball, he played basketball, he started the NFL, he played football, he did everything. He won the pentathlon, he won the decathlon, he won all these gold medals in the 1912 Olympics. But what happened was, because he was the first Indian, and they didn't like Indians back then, they stole his shoes before the decathlon. They stole his shoes.
Who stole his shoes?
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
He went into his bag and his shoes were gone. It could have been a teammate. It could have been a competitor. It could have been anything, right? Stole his shoes before the decathlon.
Yeah. Someone super high on cocaine, because they all did that back then.
They might have.
Stole his
And they
fucking
were
shoes.
darty enough to get away. Like,
And
God.
I will show you this picture. He went to his team, and his team came up with one extra shoe. We got one shoe. It was too small for him. He squeezed it on. He had one shoe. He went into the garbage, found another shoe, which was 3 sizes too big. He put on 4 tube socks and still won 8 of the 10 events in the decathlon and took the gold medal. This guy is freaking amazing.
He lost the medals because of
Damn.
some bullshit rule.
He played baseball one summer, and they paid him $2 a game. And they took away all of his medals.
Because you had to be an amateur.
And that was a professional.
That was a professional.
He was a professional.
Yeah.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Oh my God.
That was it.
Okay, now you guys had so many ties between this movie and every other movie. Like James Caan was in Elf. We covered that. Like, I get it. Godfather. Now I understand a joke from Friends
Okay.
that Jennifer Aniston told when she was a waitress at the coffee house at Central Park, because she said that she was maintaining her amateur status as a waitress so that she could waitress in the Olympics.
There you go.
And I've always gotten that on a base level, but I didn't understand that was a specific reference
There
to
you
Mr.
go,
Thorpe.
see?
Oh
There
my
you go.
God.
Yeah, no, when you look at what he did, in fact, I was watching a little 30-minute because they finally got his medals back, maybe
Yeah.
15 years,
It was
20
in the
years ago.
80s. It was in the 80s.
maybe
Was
20.
it
Yeah, it was-
posthumous medals?
Oh my
at
God,
that
he died in
point?
53.
I was about
He
to
died
say,
in 53.
Yeah, that's. Oh, he died before
But
my dad was
played,
even
he
born.
played professional football. He played professional baseball. He played everything. There was nothing, and they had Ike Eisenhower played against him in college. He was in Army, and I think that Jim Thorpe was. I don't remember what school
Army
he went
had a
to.
half day mother.
Yes, but he was just like Thorpe was amazing. Every person they interviewed, they had never seen anyone who could pick up a javelin and throw it, who could do anything. He was the world's greatest.
He just
athlete.
naturally had the ability to.
He just had that genetic makeup that made him anything he did. He was the greatest at it,
That's insane.
and every competitor, hands down, agreed with it. But what the point I was trying to make is he worked very hard to get African Americans into the NFL, to make into the Major League Baseball, NFL. He was one of the original. With George Hallis, who's in
Wait,
this movie.
African Americans or Native Americans?
African Americans.
He wanted everyone to.
He wanted everyone to
He
play.
wanted everyone to be in.
Okay,
Because again, sports throughout my
Unify
entire
everyone.
life, it's about
Everybody.
unifying. You
And,
go out on the field. When you step out on the field, it doesn't matter.
it's the ultimate equalizer.
Well,
it's about ability. It's not
It's about ability.
Yeah, it's not about anything else.
It's really not an equalizer. What it is you go out and you step on that field, whether it's a football field, a hockey rink, a baseball diamond, a basketball court. You are there with whatever you bring.
But that's what makes it an equalizer.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the color of your skin, like how
Right,
tall you
yes.
are, however, like whatever. Because you've got Muggsy Bogues versus a guy like Shaq, and completely different abilities, but they bring different things to the table.
By the way, to divert the conversation back
Yes.
to filmmaking.
Oh, right. There's a movie.
One thing that I love about watching movies from this period is how anytime they went outside, there was always a change to cheaper film stock.
Yes,
And
of
you
course.
could-
There has to be.
Yeah, and it was amazing because, later in the 70s, you would get an even more stark contrast because when they were on a set, they would shoot video.
Yeah.
And then if they were
the
outside,
graininess, yeah.
then they would shoot
kind of like
film.
with Forrest
Yeah.
Gump, where it's higher quality, and they couldn't even help it when he's with LBJ or whatever in the graininess versus the higher quality that Tom
And how do you
Hanks
think
is
they
in.
did that? Were they all extras in that stadium, or did they just jump into maybe a game and do some shots
I
or
was
something?
I was actually wondering if they had actually gone into a game
Yeah.
and done it. But the thing is, if you're in Chicago, hey, we're filming a movie. Who wants to be in a movie? Everyone shows up.
Come to the film. We'll give you each a free hot dog.
You get a free hot dog. you
And the cost of
and a
nothing.
brat. You get a free brat and the free
Brat and a beer.
free
They're all
beer.
left over from this
And the
past
Bears,
weekend's
yeah.
game.
I really
but-
want to go to that whenever they were jogging. To me,
Yes.
it's like, so wait, at the end of your jog, you end up at a place that sells you beer.
Well,
I think
okay.
I could get into jogging now.
No, that's a great segue into what I was about to go back to. So thank you, Jason, because the reason why the guys are racing in the first place is because Piccolo is trying to, inspire Sayers into getting healthy again and really sprinting all out, going 100%. And Mr. Brown and I were having not a debate, but we were texting about the difference between foreshadowing. Because do you remember what you said about foreshadowing?
I did. Yes.
What did you say?
I don't. I remember saying something about foreshadowing, but I don't remember what it was.
Okay, so you thought that foreshadowing came later in the movie than it did, when in fact foreshadowing appeared in the park when they were racing each other, Piccolo and Sayers, to the beer stand, where they're both panting and breathing heavily, and Sayers actually beats Piccolo to the beer stand, and that's great. So Piccolo owes him the beer, and that's great. It's awesome. It's an uplifting moment. But then you hear Piccolo say, "Yeah, Sayers, you're healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
You're healthy." That's the point,
The
is
one
that-
that I thought was foreshadowing was when they were on the scale.
That comes after the race, though.
Yeah, but that was the first thing that jumped out.
That's what I told them. Foreshadowing. Yeah.
See, you guys beat me to it. So well done. But yeah, Adam said that, foreshadowing when he starts losing the weight and he's like a few milliseconds behind his time,
Yeah.
and what
He's off his game.
yeah,
he's
he
off
is.
his game.
And this is where the Archer reference comes in, gentlemen. So Sayers and Piccolo are in their room together, and Jimmy Kahn is complaining about being sent home. He doesn't like the fact that he's got to get a checkup and he's got to get checked out, but he really complains about being diagnosed in a Chinese restaurant. Little of column A, little of column B. And that's quoted in Archer more than once.
Well, one of the other interesting things about his diagnosis is that he had a very rare type of cancer.
Do I need to look it up?
You can, but I can't pronounce it. I can see the word.
It's complex.
Yeah.
Does this have subtitles? Just curious.
Not on YouTube.
Oh, it doesn't?
Yeah,
Oh,
no.
it's
Yeah, it's on YouTube. Yeah,
You got it free on YouTube?
Yeah, the whole movie.
It didn't on Amazon as far as I could see, but maybe that was
Yeah, the whole
user
movie is
error.
for free on
I
YouTube.
paid $4.
So did I.
Oh my God.
Don't worry, it
Always.
wasn't just you.
Always
It was
start
me
with
too.
YouTube.
I know.
But the thing is, though, the type of cancer he had, while it metastasized and it was in his lungs and his abdominal wall and all that, it started
Embryonal
off.
cell carcinoma.
Yeah, it started off in his testicles. It was originally testicular cancer that metastasized away from that.
Oh, because they focus on his lungs in the movie.
Well, I understand. That's whenever he found it.
I understand that,
Yeah,
but oh wow, they only mention the lungs in the movie.
Well, the two things about it that are odd is that one, they couldn't say testicle, so they couldn't actually specify the type of cancer he had in the movie.
Oh.
And the other
That was a
thing,
forbidden word. Whereas the N word,
yeah,
you could say that freely.
say that everywhere. Yeah,
It's a whole different world, isn't it?
like being pregnant, you can't say that on I Love Lucy,
No, you
but you
can't.
can
No, you
sure as
can't.
hell say the N word.
yeah.
but
You can say midget though.
the other thing about this though is that in the
As bad as
movie,
the N word.
in the movie, a big part of the conflict, and it's actually very creative the way they do it, where he has the first surgery, he comes out of the first surgery, and
Very
then
positive,
there's this very big moment where it's revealed there's more cancer, you're gonna have to have surgery again, and then that ultimately leads to his death.
Right.
And
One of the controversies about this though is that people looking back at it have severely criticized the doctors. Basically saying
For their method, yeah.
well, basically saying you knew at this point there was no saving this guy. So instead of putting him through this, I mean, they took
This horrible invasive surgery
They took
that
all this tissue out of his chest and everything. They should have focused on quality of life, et cetera, et cetera.
it depends on the patient to be absolutely fair. I
Yeah.
can tell you as a person who's experienced this through others, unfortunately. It depends on what the patient chooses. And Piccolo's main thing in life, he wanted to get back on the field. Like whenever Sayers came
Oh, he
to
was
see
sure
him,
he was going to.
And and that was his determination. He was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you next year at camp. I'm gonna get you. Like I'm gonna outrun you. I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna outdo you." That was his whole deal in life. So even if the doctors had told him, "Piccolo, you're not gonna play football anymore," he wouldn't have listened.
No, he wouldn't have.
From just based on the character. I don't know much about him as a person. Obviously.
I think Piccolo. My impression is that if it had gotten through his head that he could have lived but never played football again, he would have figured out a way of doing something that would have helped people. Because
absolutely.
he was when you look at what people describe him as,
his positivity was infectious.
Yeah, the word generous comes up every single time. In fact, I saw a video of an interview that was done with Piccolo's widow.
His widow.
Who is Joyce. Who is, since remarried, but she's still...
I would hope so. It's been like 50 years.
The video was
Good for her.
something, it was... they were either giving him a posthumous award or they were starting some sort of posthumous charity thing.
Mm-hmm.
She still apparently receives those on his behalf. And she was and she was talking to the interviewer who clearly didn't know too much about him. And that was what came up over and over. This is what he would have loved. He just wanted to help people and give and give and give. And I think if there had been a way for him to make it out of this, even if he had to give up football, I think he was the sort of person, and I think this is why
To
he's so
build up
endearing.
others and find
Exactly.
a purpose that way.
Well, look what he said. He said, "Hey, there's a little girl. She wants your autograph."
Yes. Oh my God, the little girl. That was the only thing that.
That was a heart
I
wrenching
cried.
saying.
I cried. I was like shaking my
heart-wrenching.
wife's like, "Are you crying?"
No.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. No,
I'm not crying. You're crying.
I would deny it 10 years ago, but I'm just like, whatever.
Who cares? But
Yeah.
So what
Please,
they're
I watched the Goldbergs and I cried.
Oh,
what What the boys are trying to say, hindsighters, is that there's this side story when Piccolo goes to the hospital. There's a little girl who was submitted for a similar procedure, if not the exact same, the same day.
Yeah, he just said she went for surgery. She had her surgery
at the same time as me. And when Sayers comes to visit Piccolo in the hospital, Piccolo is trying to cheer her up, even going into surgery himself, by saying, "Oh, well, I know Mr. Sayers. You want his autograph? I'll get it for you." And he's just so sweet to her, even though,
of course, Gale Sayers is like, "Absolutely, where is she?"
Yeah, because as Gale is on his way out, Piccolo reaches for him and he's like, "Joyce, show him to that little girl downstairs and make sure that Gale gets her his autograph. You don't mind, do you?" "Absolutely not, man."
Well,
that's just that, and that's honestly, and I'm not going to go back into the story, but that's why I have the Carrie Elway story. When Meg was sick, and that was our hero, and that was somebody that we've loved since we were kids. I was getting that damn autograph for Meg when she was sick.
Well.
It was my mission.
That's
I love you, Skillet. I really do.
That's an interesting idea for a story, because I was it's actually.
See, there's substance to it.
Yeah, let's put a
we
pin
have
in
to
that.
take a break.
We'll come back. Yeah, no. We've still got we're only 17.
We're all
but
right.
What I was going to say is that people who are doing screenwriting and screenwriting for TV in particular. If you make something where there's no bad guy and the entire conflict is people trying to do good, here's the example. Go back and watch the first 2 seasons of Downton Abbey. Remember Downton Abbey, biggest show ever. Everyone was going
crazy. You've seen Downton Abbey and I've never seen it.
Oh yeah, I've watched. Yeah, I watched Downton Abbey up to a point, and then
you were done with it. Okay.
There's a whole conversation about when that stopped.
We'll talk about this off camera.
Yeah, but if you watch the first 2 seasons of Downton Abbey, a huge portion of that show is literally people finding out that someone that they care for has a problem, and then trying to fix that person's
scheming
problem.
to fix it. Yes, like
and it's like, well, wait, there's no bad guy. Everybody's just trying to help each other, and the conflict is
life.
Yeah, the conflict. Exactly.
Life is the bad guy.
Life as it life as it should be, because honestly, whenever, and it's such a cliche thing to say these days, but whenever you hear about somebody having a problem, you say, "Well, if there's anything I can do to help, you just let me know."
Right.
And it's weird because our strange counterculture has come down on that idea where it's like, no, you should ask specific questions like, "Oh, can I bring you by a casserole? Can I come and clean your bathroom? Can I do this?" And it's like, no. That's still a nice concept. Like, people mean it when they still give you the generic, "If there's anything I can do, just let me know."
But in our generation, for some reason, that's like insulting.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
Or if you say to somebody like, "Oh, I just lost my mother," and you go, "Well, I'm sorry." "Why are you sorry?" "Well, you know what?
You didn't have anything to do with it.
Well, you know what? Fuck you then."
But that's what you were supposed to say.
Right.
It's condolences, right?
Exactly.
My condolences.
Yeah.
But you know that the people who offer these days are brave enough to actually give that blank check, as it were. So
This
it's
is the
just
scene.
Yeah.
This is the scene.
She's not with us anymore.
The
We'll
little
go to
girl.
her house. We'll deliver it to her house. Sends the little girl away.
Ixnay on the ittle girl lay.
You know, not
What's
even
with these
Ishay's
movies?
Ed Day.
I know, not even passed
take a
away.
break? Oh,
She's
no.
dead.
Yeah.
You know, she's
At least she scoots
the-
the little girl,
I
the other
know.
little girl.
I don't know the name of the actress who plays Joyce.
yeah.
Is that
That's
her name?
Let me find
Fabre.
out.
She reminds me.
he's got it all
She
pulled up.
reminds me, and this is gonna.
Nanette's niece, Shelley Fabre.
Okay, yeah, she was in the Donna Reed show
Yes,
as a little girl.
and also in Clambake as Elvis Presley's girlfriend.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh, lucky girl.
She reminds me.
Good for her.
I love
For some
Clambake.
reason, do you remember Jane Seymour from Live and Let Die?
Yes, you're right.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
She-
I
that's-
actually know what you're talking
Yeah,
about for a damn change.
The whole movie, I went, she reminds me of Jane Seymour.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see more it.
Apparently, she was the wife in the TV series Coach too. I never watched.
I don't know
Coach,
anything.
Oh,
Here's
Coach?
some more.
Wait, she was the wife
but
of
She
Coach?
was the wife in Coach. Shelley Fabre.
Here's
Oh
some
my
more.
God.
Old
I
footage.
watched every episode of Coach.
You can actually see in this footage, gentlemen, sorry to interrupt you, you can see where he hurt his knee. where they actually go back to the literal old footage.
all
and
the old footage.
You can see where Sayers starts to limp after his knee injury.
You know what, idiot? If you're going to dedicate a game ball to somebody,
Right,
at least win the game.
Oddly, that never seems to work out that way.
Yeah.
Context, gentlemen, context.
No, there's another.
A lot of our listeners don't live in America, so
Oh, that's right. For all you Australians out there.
and
Oh, this is
Japanese and
not
French.
soccer.
Oh,
This is
wait a minute.
Love you all.
I was about to say, in that case, we need to clarify. When we say football,
We're not talking about soccer.
we're not.
If you're watching, it's this ball here.
the one that looks like a rugby ball.
Yes.
That's right. And we
Not
wear
that,
this
not that
helmet.
pansy ass game that you play with your feet. Yeah, I said it.
There's a soccer goalie within reaching distance
Oh my
across
gosh.
the
Wait,
table
a
from
soccer
you.
goalie? Isn't that like a drummer in a rock band?
We're gonna take a break, hindsiders, because I'm about to beat the holy hell out of
we do.
Jason.
Maybe we should
Take a
take a break.
break.
I may have to use the restroom.
Yeah. Hopefully, I will be back in about 1 second.
We'll see.
And we're back.
I don't
Yay.
think he's ever said that before.
Far more inebriated than we were moments ago because the
I don't know
break was a
about you.
little longer. It only seemed like a second to you folks, but we've been drinking pretty heavily.
We were arrested. We
I don't know
bailed
what you're
out.
talking
We're
about.
back. Everything's fine.
I was
I've
in
got
prison.
coffee.
I dropped the soap. It was ugly, and now we're back.
Oh, that's some hot coffee. Oh my
No,
goodness.
but to what Jason was saying, the 40s, 50s, and 60s were just great period. And even
Really?
in
Do
the
you remember
70s.
those periods, Mr. Brown?
Yeah, the 40s.
You mean anti-flow? No.
What?
He's talking about girl jokes.
Get it? Remember those
okay,
periods?
okay.
I don't remember them, but stories were told. Now, my father went to high school with a person who eventually became a professional football player for the New York Giants.
Eventually.
He played with Frank Gifford. Alec Webster was his name. He was the halfback. Frank Gifford was the fullback. Wyatt Tittle was the quarterback. He eventually became the head coach of the Giants.
And he led them to numerous
Losses. Many losses. His head now his professional sports playing period. He set records that are still held by the Giants. He was a fantastic player. As a coach, not so much. But his name was Alec Webster, and 3 years before he died, I brought Danger to go visit him.
Oh, look at this.
cute.
Let's get it. Here.
You got to
Yeah, get the
get a
camera.
video of that. And he was one of those rough and tumble football players, barroom brawler, but the sweetest guy you ever met.
Look at Danger. How old is Danger in this picture?
He would have been
Let me
1.5.
Oh, Dange.
And there he is with Fran Tarkenton. You ever heard of that name
Yeah.
before?
Oh, yeah.
He was the quarterback for the Vikings, but he was with the Giants before the Vikings.
You know,
Look at
I
how
will
dark your
say.
hair is, Mr. Brown.
I know.
Oh,
I was still coloring it at the
I was
time.
giving him a compliment.
Thank
Oh
you.
my god.
You know, I actually
You were still
Yes, I was.
I just heard that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah.
out of all the football fan groupings, I've known a lot of Giants fans, and they're the most enjoyable to hang out with.
Why is that?
Well, I think they're sort of like Saints fans, which I know a lot of because I'm from Louisiana.
You're
And-
from Louisiana?
Yeah, believe it or not.
Hold on.
And with Saints fans, it's we love the Saints. We understand they suck.
Yes.
We totally get it.
We root for our hometown team,
Yeah,
damn it.
it's, but we won one Super Bowl. Okay.
Yes, you did. That's true. I do know that.
But like the Giants fans, I know it's like there's this weird sort of like the Giants are good, but not
Great.
great.
Yeah.
And it's fun hanging out with them because when they lose, they kind of saw it coming, and they're
understand
they're
it.
more chill.
They don't like riot in Boston or anything
well,
like that.
it's not like the Chicago fans who they just get mad every time. They get so mad. They get mad at the Bears.
Yeah,
Like the Bears
Bears.
cheated them.
But you're thinking when the Super Bowl emerged back in the 60s when it started. But before the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
there was like, out of 8 championship games, the Giants won like 4 or 5 of them.
Yes.
I'm talking in the 50s. They
was
were
gonna
like,
say-
they were a preeminent team. They were dominating.
That's true. I was thinking of a period less than 60 years ago.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Yes.
Back when football was actual football.
Yes.
The New
so
York
sad.
Giants who don't play in New York.
No, the New Jersey Giants.
The New Jersey Giants.
Yes, the Meadowlands.
Well,
But
I mean,
I was at the last game they played in Yankee Stadium.
Really?
And in fact, Alec Webster, the guy that we just saw the picture, he came up to me and gave me the biggest bear hug. He like almost squashed me.
That is awesome.
Because, you know, he came up to my dad because they went to high school. They were
Yeah.
best friends. And he goes, "Is that your son?" "Yes." "Come here." He just grabbed it. I mean, his hands were as big as my head.
an old man squeezing you
Yes.
to death. Yeah.
But it was an amazing memory, and it was just absolutely wonderful.
Well, I went to Louisiana Tech University, and I knew a lot of people who were friends with a guy named Terry Bradshaw.
Oh, I've heard of that fellow.
And, yeah, and
I've heard of that fellow.
I know.
And
who
the funny
Terry
thing is-
From Pennsylvania.
more than once I said, do you keep up with Terry Bradshaw? And more than once I heard the response, that moron wouldn't even know me if I walked up to him. They all loved him, but it was just known that he was not the sharpest knife in the drawer.
He could throw a ball.
He could throw a ball.
I mean, I throw balls far. You want good words? Date a languager. There you go.
Data
Cheers.
languager.
That
I
is-
love it.
That is some spot on Rick and Morty, Mr. Brown. So anyway,
So true.
We're at a point in the movie where today
This is where the tears started to
this
flow
is
for
sad.
me. I was sad.
and it makes sense. So let's give some context. So what's happening, hindsighters, is that Joyce,
Yes,
the
Joyce
wife
Piccolo.
of Piccolo, Joyce Piccolo,
Of his pickle.
has found. She's
Low.
Piccolo Rick. Shut
I'm
up.
sorry, guys.
God, you're so unprofessional.
We're drunk.
Get
we
it
can't help
together.
it. But proceed,
Who's-
Adam.
I've
this we?
got things to say about this scene. So
No, I do
come on.
too. So in today's medical
it up.
profession, there's no way in hell that just a person who comes in to get your signature would tell you that you're due for a major surgery.
Well, it was
And-
a miscommunication.
Yeah, but still
thought-
though.
He went in there thinking the doctor had already told him.
Yeah, but he found out that the doctor had not, in fact, told
Yeah.
Piccolo that he
This
was due
was
for said
pre-HIPAA.
surgery. I know.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Pre-HIPAA?
HIPAA.
HIPAA.
I understand the Hippocratic Oath, but
No,
like,
no. HIPAA, the law.
Health insurance or health information portability and accountability act.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
HIPAA.
I was like,
Yeah.
wait a minute.
It's
So-
the law that makes it where if a doctor tells somebody that you're been
you can
diagnosed
sue them for
as
literally
a human
everything.
being,
Yeah, it's
they go
horrible.
to jail and they
Yes.
execute them.
HIPAA.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
So,
Hippopotamus.
okay, now that makes sense. I thought
Yeah.
y'all were talking about the Hippocratic Oath, but I
Back
was
then, doctors could say things to your wife without getting you to sign a piece of paper saying,
well,
"Is
they
it
can.
okay if I?"
Can't they say something to your wife, like if she's your wife?
No. I'm in healthcare. No,
No.
you can't share it. Because what if your wife's
Wait.
got an STD? No, you can't share that with
You
the husband.
cannot. You cannot.
She might have been like diddling around.
But y'all
That's
are,
it.
Yeah.
but y'all are legally bound. That's,
Doesn't
Doesn't
matter.
matter.
oh God.
You're an adult over 18. You can't
You're
share
hosed.
information.
oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
As
hip-
doctor,
that's
you're
HIPAA.
hosed.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So yeah. So this is pre-HIPAA, where just the guy getting the charts
The
signed.
administrator. Can you
can say-
authorize me cutting out another one of your lungs? What?
Yeah, and he just he sort of breaks the news or like chips the iceberg, but then lets Billy D do all the really hard work.
Would
as
you
far
just
as,
tell him we got to do a cut and shut on his testicular region?
So I know he's got 2 of those lungs. Now he's only gonna have 1. Is that
It's like,
right?
yeah,
Like,
he
you
cut-
talked to Kenny, didn't you? He's the worst contractor. I swear to God. Like
Imagine
But it was a good scene talking about how, a football player.
How an
has his
athlete in
head-
general,
has
yeah.
his head in the game because there is no truer statement than that.
Yeah, you've
I
got to
agree.
be psychologically and physically prepared.
'Cause,
well, and this scene also from a writing perspective, this is really the scene where you didn't even kind of realize that Piccolo had been sort of the guy looking out for Gale. Piccolo's the guy who's
no, as a girl, you pick up on that very
well,
very quickly.
And this scene, it just forces the reverse.
Yeah.
And
Because
it's
that
so
was,
harsh.
That was his armor. Is that
Yeah.
that was the one strong point that he had, is that he wasn't the starter, he wasn't the first in line, but he made sure that the guy who was first in line was always healthy and good to go. He went out of his way, and that's why they keep him on the team. It's not
and they were
just
going to be
because
starting on the back on the
he was about to
what
be a
they call
back
it?
end or
The
something.
The backfield.
the backfield.
backfield,
Yeah, the
yeah.
backfield
Yeah.
together.
So, and they were so excited about that because then they were officially not competing against each other professionally anymore.
Also, every operating room in the 1960s and 70s was stark raving terror.
Yes.
They were designed to be as terrifying as possible.
It reminds me of that movie you
Here
made
we
us
are.
watch, Jason, from that guy who got abducted in the 90s.
Oh, Fire in the Sky.
Yeah, Fire in the Sky. That's what it makes me think about. I was like, oh, okay.
I have to interrupt everybody though,
Go ahead.
because we have
take
come
a
up to
sip.
the scene
speech.
which is the scene. If you remember anything about Brian's song, it's the scene where
Definitely not his song.
yeah, it's when Billy D. Well, it's Brian's theme is actually hugely popular. But
Go ahead, do
Billy
your
D.
thing.
Williams is given an award for courage.
And this comes around full circle because this is the second award that he's given.
Yeah,
And the
And
first
Sayers.
time he totally folded.
Didn't
he
say
couldn't
anything.
even deliver
Yeah.
a word.
Exactly.
And-
But this time,
and in the actual real life story, Gale Sayers really said the exact words that Billy D. Williams says in this scene, where he says, "Oh no, this is exactly what he said. You know, I love Brian Piccolo, and I want you to love him too. And when you hit your knees, I want you to ask God to love Brian Piccolo also." And it's see now I'm getting tears.
I know, me too.
No, it's
See, I'm welling up right now.
So
See,
as
look
the
at-
heartless one
I
in the
think I
room,
did it.
I'll take it to the end zone, Jason.
did it.
Don't worry about it. So
I don't care. Boo! This movie sucks.
I know. God, is there pollen in this place? Have you dusted
I
lately?
did. I put some pollen in it.
Oh, look at the boys crying when Darth Vader is
I
not.
said that he would probably cry.
I'm
I know
telling
you
you.
wouldn't because
Yeah.
you're a cold-hearted. Go ahead, proceed.
Anyway, easy there, Mr. Brown.
Cold
But
like ice, and you're willing to sacrifice.
Yes, your love.
woo, woo,
Look at
woo.
Billy D. Though. Look at his face. Look at the way he delivers it.
He's
doesn't ham
magical
it
in this
up.
movie. He
No, he
is
doesn't.
magic.
No,
Less is more.
exactly.
Less is more
He
here.
comes in and he just. I'm a person talking to you.
But that's the whole point of his character. Because like Adam was alluding to a moment ago, the first time that Sayers receives an award, Piccolo was even coaching him through that and trying to help
He
him
wrote
through
a
that
speech.
experience. He wrote a speech, exactly. And he was like, all right, all right, Sayers, like, here we go. Come on. We've got this. And he just couldn't get through the speech the
No.
first time, Sayers.
Thank you.
But when it came to Piccolo, he got up there and spoke the most eloquent speech where he said, like you said, Jason, when you get down on your knees tonight, I want you to love
Shane
Brian
Seymour.
Piccolo too.
yeah,
So
I love Han Solo, and I want you to love Han Solo.
Chewbacca loves Han Solo, and that should be
And
enough.
when you
damn
get your
it.
knees, you ask the Force to love Han Solo too. That's what he.
God damn it.
That was
Look
the
at
whole.
that. You just ruined the moment.
That was between
I'm not
Empire
crying
and
anymore.
Thank you. That's what I do. I use humor to avoid emotions.
I'm not so good at the emotional stuff. Can I interest you in a sarcastic comment?
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll take it.
But
Jane Seymour.
yes.
Well,
so
not Jane Seymour.
poor Piccolo. He's sitting there dying, and he even to his deathbed, he's supportive of Sayers, like so proud of him,
Yeah.
like everything that he can possibly be. He's never bitter,
Did you
and that's beautiful.
did you happen to hear the story though when James Caan was filming the death scene?
No, I know nothing about the actor's
Oh, God.
take on this.
But James
I got
Caan was
derailed. I
apparently
don't know what's
he
happening
was
anymore.
apparently talking to somebody and they called him onto the set and he said, "Here, take my cigarette and my Pepsi. I got to go die." And
Yeah.
he's literally playing a guy dying of lung cancer.
Oh God,
Here, take my cigarette. I gotta go die.
you gotta go die.
Yeah, and he went and he delivered oh, there he is, the Big Lebowski again.
Yep.
Yeah.
He went and delivered a performance that I'm assuming was great, but I couldn't understand a single word.
Yeah,
he
I
said.
couldn't either.
And
It just-
I freely admit that I couldn't.
nothing that James Caan said.
I was watching the subtitles because I paid the $4.
Oh, tell
You
us.
see.
Tell
Okay.
us what
I'm
happened,
feeling
Mr.
punk.
Brown.
He said he's feeling punk.
Okay, see, I couldn't
I'm
understand.
not
any
familiar
of
with
that.
punk, but apparently it was big in the late 60s.
Like the Ramones or Pet
No,
Shop
no.
Boys?
Apparently it's a feeling, a sensation. If you feel like shit, you're feeling punk.
Oh,
And that's
Look at
what
him
he
holding
said.
hands.
is that it or like,
Well, no, it's just they have some light conversation and then he dies essentially.
This is
But what's really well done is they don't show him die.
Right.
They cut away to that memorable scene of them running together.
yeah, they
I
all-
can't? But
And then George Hallis.
I hate that though, because the wives
No, it's just
and
sad, dude.
the wives and Sayers like grouped together, and that means that Piccolo died all by himself.
He didn't.
No. Sarah's was with him when he died.
Okay,
they
good.
just didn't want to show.
because-
They didn't want to show that in the
Yeah.
film.
Okay,
They cut
thank
away.
God, because seriously, like that's, and hindsighters, this is just a family thing that happened recently. A family member lost a dog, and I've learned that due to COVID, that you can't even be with your dog while they die now.
Yeah, you can. I got a gun.
If you're determined
yeah,
enough.
yeah. They're not keeping me away from my dog if he's dying.
Some people say they have an army. I have a Jason.
Yeah.
You got
So
Jason and
bring
the
it.
Argonauts.
Yeah. No, I mean, I
First
don't
of all, life, don't try to take my Millie or my Watson away from me.
Yeah.
I will at you.
if it's a person saying goodbye to their dog, I'll go to prison.
No,
Okay.
no measure.
Yeah.
But like if somebody tried to keep me away from Meg during COVID right now, like if things had gone south, there's nothing in God's green earth that would stop me from being with her to the very fucking end.
No, that's when you tell the
Like,
doctor. You just tell the doctor, look.
You
I mean-
have a choice.
Well, no, it's very simple. I mean, you can keep me out of there. You'll be dead.
You have a choice.
Is this worth dying for?
It's up to you,
The
dog.
Hippocratic oath.
Yeah.
I'm not threatening. I'm promising with a sip of my drink. But seriously, it just I couldn't turn.
No, that's not it.
Uncle Owen, and Burrell.
James Caan just vanishes and his sheet falls slowly to.
No, y'all know that there are actual
So you're
action
making
figures.
fun of it to keep from crying.
Yes, I
know
am.
you
That's
are.
what I do.
That's what
Yeah.
boys do. They avoid emotional comfort.
Because he's smiling. I mean, James Caan. Look, I mean,
And the one time
the
James
older-
Caan ever smiled.
Oh, he smiles a lot in this movie.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just. He's
No.
not known for being a cheerful
That's true,
character.
yes.
Is the
Not as
point
Sonny
of
Corleone. He didn't smile a lot.
Exactly.
But that's the thing. Like, guys, we like to think that when faced with death, we can just say, fuck it, and we'll just laugh about it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's really hits home because he knows he's dying. He is dying.
Yeah.
And he's with his best friend. And he's kind of cracking jokes, and he's actually
still trying to bolster.
Yeah,
Sayers.
he's trying to make everyone else feel better.
Yeah.
It's like I love when I think I've told you this story before. When Bob Hope was dying, and
I don't think you have actually.
Okay. Well, Bob Hope, whenever he was very, very ill, it was towards the end, and I think it might have been the last day or close to it, and I think it was one of his kids or his wife. Somebody said, "Well, where do you want to be buried?" And he said, "Surprise me."
Yeah.
And
A jokester to the bitter
to the end. And everyone
yes.
laughed, and he felt better because everyone around him was laughing. Somebody once said, "Death is like being stupid." You're not aware of it, and it's only a problem for everybody else.
That's
Oh
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like my not to bring up my dad again, but I'm going to because he's my damn hero. But he came out of a procedure once, and I had to go pick him up and take him home, and he looked around the room and just
High as a kite.
yeah, he didn't know, he was disoriented, he didn't know where he was, and he was looking around, and his eyes landed on me, and he just goes, "Hey, Jade."
Oh, jeez.
And I've never seen him happier to see me in my life. And I was just like, "Hey, Daddy, I'm here to take you home." And he was like, "Can we get barbecue?" And I was like, "Absolutely, sir. Let's go." He couldn't eat,
What's the name of that barbecue place?
Slopes Barbecue.
Slopes.
My first job ever, actually.
Which, by
thank
the
you,
way-
Miss Marlene and Mr. White.
I don't think I ever mentioned that. Whenever I went to Slopes Barbecue, because that's where the ham radio test was
Tell
taken.
him that you know Morgan Rogers. He's a
And-
big deal.
Well, it's not just that. I was at this barbecue place, and they have a little thing that says local authors, and here's a book written by
Morgan Rogers.
Rogers.
Darth's daddy.
Yeah.
I edited both of those books. Actually, I edited all three of his books.
In the 1970s, no one really knew how to do a freeze frame.
No.
And they would always pick
It's
the
so
freeze
blurry.
frame where you looked like you were constipated.
I was thinking that. I wasn't
you.
going to say it out loud, but yeah, you're right.
But he was
it was the
26
70s.
years old when he died.
Yeah.
26.
was a young
Meanwhile,
man.
James Caan was
32.
what, 32?
Probably when they shot
Oh,
this,
he was
yeah.
younger than I am
And James
now.
Caan, James Caan played football. He was an athlete. He was a real athlete. One of the things,
unlike some people in the room. Oh wait,
I was an athlete, but it was a long, long time ago.
In a galaxy far, far away.
When they were making this movie, though, one of the things they had to do was that anytime Billy Dee was supposed to win a race, James Caan always had to, or the director had to tell him, you got to slow down.
Pull back a little
You got to
bit.
pull back.
Pull back.
Because James Caan was a real proper athlete. Billy Dee was just
He was an actor.
awesome.
He was an actor.
He was
Yeah.
just in shape, like gym muscles, or like.
Billy Dee was just in shape. He was a fit man. You know?
Oh my God, that's hilarious because.
All he needed to do was say something racist, and then that got him to stop, right? Like, remember when he was going to name his kid?
What was,
Do you remember that scene?
I don't.
Just before, they were about to run.
Yes.
Yeah.
Remember? Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not.
Go, no,
No, they can look it up. They can
Okay, yeah, hindsighters
they can look it
So
up.
I guess one of the few things that we have to discuss before we go out to Seinfeld, Darth Vader is a straight 5, obviously, because I've never seen this movie before. But I guess the difference in the impact of the racism of the movie. So, Jason, you and I, having grown up in the Deep South,
Very deep.
Yes, very deep South. I mean, like both
this
of our
Hoosiers?
states,
Could be.
Oh, sorry.
both of our states border the Gulf of Mexico.
Yes, yeah.
So that's how deep the South is.
Segregation.
Oh, it is
No.
Hoosiers. All right.
Segregation forever.
But
Oh, Jesus God.
Sorry.
but
I didn't.
We know who that is. George Wallace.
Yes, we know. Fucking George
I'm
Wallace.
trying to make a progressive point.
Well, I'm pulling you back to the real world. Go ahead. Proceed.
Said Mr. Pennsylvania. So
know.
that being said, Adam, you did text me about how the racism and the segregation hit you so hard with this movie. Why is that? Is that because you're from the North, or is it just because you're more sentimental, or like because Jason and I are from the Deep South, where unfortunately racism and segregation
Well,
are just part of what we know.
Just an observation, and it is kind of controversial. I think Hoosiers is a better movie.
It might be.
It could be. But we're
Empire
rolling
Strikes
into
Back
our
is the
next
best movie.
podcast.
I know.
We're going to pull back a little bit.
So I'm hearing that we don't want to talk about
No,
this.
no.
Yeah, the race thing. Yeah, no, we don't want to talk about race.
No, all I was talking
No, I'll
about was
say-
whether or not it hit him harder because he's from the North, whereas you and I are from the South, and
Well, no, I don't think
we're
so.
unfortunately used to
I
it,
think
and
there's
that's not
people
okay.
in the South who are against racism.
Of
Yeah.
course we are. You have two people.
I know. No, I'll tell you why.
It's not a north-south thing.
No, it isn't.
really isn't.
I tell you, the biggest racists I ever met were in Ohio. It was frightening.
Really?
Yes.
Ohio
See?
racist.
Ohio,
I
Sandusky,
don't know what's going on.
Ohio. I went up there and suddenly
tell.
the N-word wasn't a bad word anymore. And I was
Really?
shocked. Yes. Oh my God. They wanted to go hunting. You know, it was horrible.
In Ohio?
In Ohio. Yes. Yeah. Ohio.
Shocking news out of Ohio, ladies and gentlemen.
We're ashamed.
But if you're from Ohio, you might not be quite so shocked.
But Indiana is a state with Hoosiers in it, and
Jesus.
Can we go back to? I'm going to give this movie.
I have to give a dissertation on this very shortly, but proceed.
I was going to give my Alf to Seinfeld.
Before we do that, I have to give a community sort of reference.
This is always welcome.
I can't tell my white cell count today. One by one, they all just fade away.
God, what am I doing on the show with
My
you?
best friend had cancer. I can do this all day long. She'll be so proud of me.
You see, I'm an alcoholic, and I'm used to being drunk. You two seem to be amateurs at this.
I'm definitely an amateur when it comes to drinking. I hardly drink at all, except when I'm here.
I don't know what you're talking about. My coffee's very hot.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
And
cool your
hold on,
coffee
ready?
down. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I got to tell you, I've used that probably 4 times on
Good.
conference calls with my. I said, my gin and tonic. My friend.
Do you,
my
like,
friend on my
draw
podcast
attention
told me
to
I
it?
should blow it.
They want you to blow it.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
I never actually told you to blow anything.
Well,
I want that on
As a
record.
disclaimer,
Loose lips are sinking ships now. But,
Yes,
but,
I'm
but
food-
may I
I'm
speak for a
familiar
moment?
with the
Let
wide
me know when I
hips.
can have my soapbox.
You're on.
Okay.
go for it.
When I first saw this movie, I was moved. I cried a lot, but it was mainly because of the camaraderie and the death at the end, the loss of his close friend. I watched it this time, and I did not have any recollection about the segregation and the desegregation component of it.
Okay.
And I think the reason it made me sad was because in my lifetime, these things occurred. And I took my daughter to a museum in Atlanta, and there was pictures they had taken from the 50s, Jim Crow South, where they had like whites and colors only. And my daughter asked me, what does that mean? She didn't understand it. Oh. She's like, what is white and color mean? Because we never,
that's awesome.
that
she doesn't know.
It's an alien term to her.
It is. It's totally
and that's
alien.
good.
Yeah,
that's great.
And I said, back in the day, and not too long ago, I mean, I was a young boy, there were certain places that African Americans could go in, certain places, but they could not mix. And she could not comprehend that, and still can't. So when I saw that in the movie, it made me very sad, because I believe that in a country where you have segregation, you're never going to realize your full potential.
Well, you're not. I mean, one of the things as an armchair historian of, in particular, the Second World War, one of the observations I've always found so fascinating is that British people, during the war, you had thousands and hundreds of thousands of Americans go to Britain in preparation for the invasion of Europe, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
And of course, you had a lot of African American soldiers who came with. And to the British, they just saw uniforms. They didn't.
They saw Yankees.
They could.
They saw
less.
Yankees.
Because we're all Yankees, whether we're from the South or the North in America.
Well, it's sort of like they said, well, we didn't like either one, the whites or the blacks. It was the uniforms. But they would invite a black soldier to go to a social thing in Britain. And it was a scandal, and the British had this huge hard time on it. Well, why is this a scandal? He's a soldier. You brought him over here to go and fight. Can he come out and dancing with us? This doesn't make any sense. Which is one of the reasons why actually the war was such a positive thing in that regard, because it forced all these people together, and you had these new relationships and friendships. And I mean, I know for a fact that my relatives who fought in the Second World War, they all came from Texas, Louisiana, Georgia. They were born in the 19-teens. They came from a particular worldview of race and things like that. Then they go off, and my grandfather, part of the time he spent in the service, he was a supply sergeant. He had all kinds of people driving trucks and things like that, and he got to know people in a totally new way. And he was like, he had gone from living as a person in Louisiana to a person with black people, white people from New York. This guy would never have met anyone from New York.
Yeah.
Of course not.
Other than the war.
It was a gazillion miles away.
Right. Mm-hmm. And it had this incredible effect of, oh, well, you're American, I'm American. We're on the same team here. This works.
Yeah. We're all good.
Yeah. I mean, it's the thing about this movie, and I'll say right now, I'm going to give it about a 9 on the Alf to Seinfeld.
Because you saw it as a child?
I saw it as a kid.
Okay.
And it was sad.
Well, yeah, but you didn't really understand the ramifications.
But
of
it's not really the race thing. The race thing is what bumps it up.
Not even that, but like even being married and what that would do to your wife and
Yeah, exactly.
So all this extra, yeah.
Well, I mean, even though you never see the kids, he has 3 daughters.
Right. That's right.
That's the real punishment.
Yeah.
And he's 26.
He's 26. Yeah.
Exactly. 3 children and 26. Oh,
they
my
were only
God.
married for 5 years.
Yeah.
They were high school sweethearts. They knew each other before high school. They dated during high school. They got married at 21. They were together, I mean, literally his entire adult life. Joyce was... It was Joyce in the NFL. Those were his things.
Is she married to an NFL guy now, or like completely different kind of guy?
No, I don't believe so. No.
She married an Irishman. O'Connell is her married name.
Maybe that's the guy who followed me around in New Orleans.
Maybe.
And in fact, she married 3 years after he died. At the same time, the Gale Sayers divorced his first wife. So, things don't work out sometimes.
Hey, look, life and
or
TV
they work
are
out
different.
perfectly. Who knows?
You never know.
But watching the movie again, what really struck me is because when you're a kid, for the most part, you're not used to death. Death is this weird alien thing that shows up every once in a while.
Yeah.
You got to go to a funeral because your great aunt died or something like that. Then you get older.
It doesn't connect. Yeah.
Yeah. Then you get older, and death becomes this thing that occurs
That
more
starts digging into
frequently.
you.
Yeah, and you understand that longing, and you look at somebody like Gale, and his friend's gone, and that emptiness, that gap that will never be closed, that empty spot that will. I mean, he lived for another 50 years, but that hole was still there because that was his buddy, that was his friend, that was something special. His relationship with Brian Piccolo never ever could reoccur,
Be replaced.
Ever. Never.
It's not the same.
And watching it, you realize that's the special stuff. That's everybody's going to die, but not everybody's going to have friends. And that's true.
Not to that level.
Not to that level. And at the end of the day, all you are is the people that you leave behind who remember you and the lives they have. And but that's what's so wonderful about it, because you might not make millions of dollars. You might not drive Ferraris. You might not do all that kind of crap, but you can reach out and you can touch people and you can make lives better. And you can make it so that when you're around, people are happy. And when you're gone, part of them goes with
your loss.
And every single person has that power. And I think watching this, it's like that's all Brian Piccolo did. He was just nice. He was good and nice and decent and funny. And that's what it took. And yes, he was an NFL player, so he gets a movie made about him. But there's a million Brian Piccolos.
Just like him who will never get recognized. Yeah.
But that's what it is. That's life. Look, everybody's going to go. You just got to think, when you go, what are you leaving?
That's so true, Jason.
Yeah.
And that might be the portion that makes me cry, because honestly, I've told you guys on multiple occasions how I lost one of my best friends. I'm not going to actually put it on camera, but I lost him 3 years ago, about a month ago. And I still take flowers to his grave every birthday of his, because we were 5 days apart. And I take his mother's favorite flowers, because nobody's ever going to be the same. And you grow around it what you grow around the grief is pretty much what you said. And it was very well said, actually.
No, that was very well delivered.
There's a picture you can find on the internet of a tree that's fallen over.
And a tree grows around it.
And that's reality.
And that was one of the things, hindsighters, for those of you who pay attention to every single episode, the reason why I have the Dodge Challenger is because I also recently lost another important person to me, which is why you can't make me cry, Mr. Brown.
She's as
damn
tough as
bulletproof.
nails. She is as hard as a tack.
No, unfortunately.
There's tough as nails, and then there's, I've just done enough crying, and I'm
over it. I'm
That's
fucking
true.
over it. Yeah, exactly. So it just, that's pretty much what it comes down to. And I could see that with Piccolo and Sayers, honestly. And that's one of the things that, I don't talk about politics or God either that much on this show. But when Meg got sick, I made a deal with God. I was like, please, not her.
Not now.
Not now. Not her.
Yeah. No.
She doesn't deserve it. I'll find a way to pay for it. Not now, not her.
Yeah.
That's not how this goes.
And that's why that speech, whenever Sayers says, and it's in 1960s speak, so it seems a little.
And I got to keep, so that was very fortunate.
But just saying to everybody, when you hit your knees tonight, that's a heartfelt, very, very fucking real statement. That's not a screenwriter coming up with that. That was the exact words.
That person experienced it in real life, and they put it on the damn page because they were brave enough to do that.
Yeah.
Not everybody can do that.
And that's, it goes back even to when we were talking about the Poseidon Adventure. And that anecdote that I had that, as it turns out, wasn't from the Poseidon Adventure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was from the second one.
Remind the hindsighters, though. Give them some context.
And I thought it was Shelley Winters, but it wasn't.
No, yep.
Basically, you have a young person looking at the sunrise and saying, that's a beautiful sunrise. And the older person says, sweetie, they're all beautiful. You're just not old enough to realize it yet. And that is it. You're alive. Everybody right here. We're sitting in this room alive. People listening alive. Enjoy it. Go out there. Live.
Stop listening to us and go live. Oh my God.
No, finish listening to us and then go live.
You know what? No. But here's my message to the people who are listening.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to cheapen that message.
You matter. You're friends to us. If you're listening to this, you're friends to us.
Yes, you mean something to us.
You mean something.
Whether you message us, whether you troll us, whether you love us or hate us,
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
You mean something.
It's like what Annie told Jeff when Community closes out. She was like, Jeff, I'm younger than you are. You're wanting to sit down and relax and calm down at the end of your day. I want to get past the whole, oh, am I going to be able to pay my rent? Am I going to be able to do this? She's like, we're just in different stages. Like, no matter where you are, though, sit and watch that sunset.
Yeah.
Because it'll be relevant no matter what stage of your life that you are in at that moment.
Yes.
So, hindsighters, seriously, take a look.
Yeah.
So I think Mr. Brown.
I think I didn't do it.
You did good.
He took us to the mat.
You know
on
what?
This one.
I'm actually gonna revise my estimate and give it a 10.
That's nice. Given the fact that I haven't seen it and I've actually lived through it, not the dying portion, thank God, but given the fact that I haven't seen it, I'm going to break the rules and up it to an 8.
Okay.
And I'm going to give it a 10 too. Only because it was my choice. I cried from the start to the end this time, not just at the end, because it was just very meaningful.
It is.
And what you said, it was poignant and just wonderful.
So on that bombshell heartbreaker of a note, hindsighters, we actually...
It's not a heartbreaker. It's a good thing.
Yes. It is a good thing. You're right. It's heart splitting, but heart redeeming at the same time.
Welcome to being an adult.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome to life.
That's being an adult. It's equal measure, you know.
And we'll teach you those lessons. That's life, hindsighters, unfortunately. But
we're going to do Pee-wee's Big Adventure next.
So, hindsighters, we thank Mr. Brown for actually making us introspective for the first time in a long time. Excellent choice. With Billy D and Jimmy Kahn. Thank you for joining us for your football time, your best friend time, your, turning down the system time, like up, whatever you have to do to be with your best friend kind of time. It doesn't matter what they look like kind of time. We love you. We love each and every one of you, no matter what you sound like, what you look like. Thank you for tuning in. This has been Jason, Darth, and Adam. This is Hindsight, and good night.